balances under which our country operates, I am invigorated through the wins that my office and my colleagues around the country have attained against the federal government's unprecedented attacks on our system and on our residents. The federal government took actions without concern for the consequences to Nevadans. President Trump attempted to rip away vital funding without caring what programs were decimated. He attempted to rewrite the Constitution with the stroke of his pen. And he attempted to destroy the ability of Nevadans in need to put food on the table. And that's not even an exhaustive list. It's important for us to realize the extent to which the federal government has attempted to overstretch its authority. While realizing this is important, I did not call this press conference to despair. My office, working with partners and allies across the country, has been fighting back against these efforts by the federal government. And we've been winning. Collectively, my fellow Democratic attorneys general and I have filed 71 lawsuits. 51 of those have been decided, and we've prevailed on 40 of those. That's nearly a 90% success rate in protecting our constituents from unlawful and oftentimes unconstitutional actions. Here in Nevada, my office has filed 40 lawsuits against the federal government since the beginning of the president's term. Many are still ongoing, but we've received a temporary or a permanent bar on the federal government's proposed illegal policies in 25 of them. Some have asked what the cost is to the state for pursuing this litigation. I have two responses. First, all of my office's work has been accomplished within the budget approved by the legislature and signed by the governor. No new positions have been added, and no expenses outside of the normal litigation fees, such as court filing fees, have been incurred. Second, and more importantly, the cost to the state for not pursuing this litigation would have been astronomical. For example, my office, along with our partners, are currently in court right now to stop President Trump's costly and unlawful tariffs. Trump's reckless tariffs are raising costs on Nevada families and causing small businesses to close. Last year, tariffs cost Nevada families nearly $1,000. While the governor has said he believes that Nevadans should, and I quote, feel a little pain from Trump's tariffs, I don't believe that. I believe Nevada families need relief, especially when their costs have increased due to the federal government's unlawful actions. Moreover, our wins include saving grants upwards of $60 million to state agencies and to universities that Trump and his administration attempted to withhold. This $60 million is a conservative figure because, to be clear, not all of Mr. Lombardo's administrative agencies are allowed to provide us information. But it also doesn't include the SNAP benefits that we've successfully returned to Nevadans through our lawsuits against the USDA. Nor does it include the education funding freeze, in which our office saved grants that have historically been worth $100 million. We've also ensured that $4.1 million in AmeriCorps funding remained in Nevada. AmeriCorps volunteers help educate students. They help to protect the environment, and they support local communities right here in Nevada. We've also ensured that nearly $7.5 million went to Nevada State Nevada State University. This included $172,000 in funds for childcare for parents attending post-secondary education. It included $127,000 for low-income students to study STEM. And it included $252,000 in upward bound funds for low-income high school students to continue secondary education. That upward bound program is personal to me because I'm a graduate of the upward bound program and would not be here but for that program. So I'm especially proud that we've been able to preserve that program. $5.1 million of that number went to the Fund for the Improvement of Post-Secondary Education, which funds a wide variety of programs that do just that. We ensured that around $16 million in grant funding went to UNLV and $15 million went to UNR. And thanks to my office's work, $19,536,456 went to the Emergency Management Performance Grant and Homeland Security Grant Program run by our State Office of Emergency Management. Sometimes numbers can sound sterile, so it's important to remember where that money went. It went to ensuring that Nevadans are secure from terrorism and other emergencies. It went to ensuring vital academic research continued. It went toward ensuring parents and low-income students have access to post-secondary education. One of the most morally bankrupt actions taken by the federal government in the last year was the attempt to suspend November 2025 SNAP benefits due to the then ongoing government shutdown. This SNAP program is also very personal to me. I was on food stamps when I was in college as a single parent. I understand the very need for the program, and it astounded me that the federal administration overstepped its bounds and tried to have people suffer. This action was especially egregious because Congress had actually appropriated a contingency fund to continue SNAP benefits for situations such as a shutdown. The USDA had simply decided not to use it. We sued, and if it weren't for our lawsuit, that money would not have been restored to the 500,000 Nevadans who depended upon them. This should be something that every Nevadan remembers. We worked to get those funds back because no parent in this state should have to watch their child go hungry. We also defeated the president's attempt to withhold from Nevada critical FEMA and emergency funding, as well as transportation dollars. While the financial benefits for Nevada are incredibly important for keeping our agencies and our universities from facing damaging impacts to their lawfully earmarked cash flows, my office has been working hard to secure non-financial benefits that the Trump administration attacked as well. And we started working to secure those benefits quite literally right away. The day the President Trump was sworn into office, he attempted unilaterally and without any legal authority to abolish the constitutionally guaranteed right of birthright citizenship through executive order. The 14th Amendment is clear. People born in the United States are guaranteed citizenship. That has been the law of this land since the mid-1800s. And I will continue to fight to protect that constitutional right. The Supreme Court will actually be hearing that case on the same executive order this term, and I'm confident that we will prevail. In addition, my office is continuing to fight against President Trump's overreaching actions regarding our state's elections. We are co-leading a case fighting back against the president's unlawful executive order related to elections. To put it plainly, the state oversees elections, not the president and the federal government. This is simply another effort by the president to overstep his legally and constitutionally defined powers. We secured a preliminary injunction in this action, and we are currently seeking a permanent injunction. The federal government's attempts at federal overreach are not only illegal or unconstitutional, they're also entirely immoral. In one instance, the DOJ attempted to impose conditions on Violence Against Women Act and Victims of Crime Act grants that would have made it difficult or impossible to provide some services to crime victims who could not provide immigration or citizenship status. Victims of crimes who come to law enforcement for help should not be demanded to produce papers. After we filed our lawsuit, the DOJ agreed that these conditions should not apply to almost all the funding at issue, and the parties mutually agreed to settle and dismiss that case. These are not the only actions that we've taken against the federal government. We also succeeded in ensuring that the so-called Doge team was not allowed to access Treasury Department data that contained confidential information. And we stopped the unconstitutional dismantling of 4 federal agencies that support libraries, minority business development, and the fight against homelessness. The president attempted unprecedented oversteps of his legal authority last year, and I expect him to continue doing the same this year. He signaled that he does not care who his actions hurt, what rights he dismantles, and what state he leaves our country in. While the governor has called these lawsuits unfortunate, what I hope I have signaled to both the governor and the president is that every time the federal government oversteps, one of us is going to step up, and it's not going to be him. Every time the president attempts to hand wave the Constitution away or to harm hardworking Nevadans, he will see me in court. I will use every bit of my power as your Attorney General to ensure that the federal government or anyone else does not bring harm to Nevadans. I want to thank you all again for coming out. I thought it was important to give you an update on those lawsuits. And I'm proud of the work that this office has done, yeoman's work, standing up for justice and for every resident in our state. I'll take a few questions.
Guys, we've only got time for about 1 or 2 questions. AG's on a pretty big time crunch today. So, again.
Mr. Attorney General, can you tell us which cases you think had the most success in terms of those permanent or temporary stays? Are there any themes that you're drawing out from those cases?
You know, it's hard for me to qualitatively say which is most important. The fact is, those SNAP benefits were very important. The educational research into things like cancer, into sickle cell anemia, those funds we were able to restore, that was important. Those FEMA funds that I'm talking about, that was important, right? And so we won't attempt to quantify or qualify or to rank order these lawsuits. The fact of the matter is, I've said time and again, there are 2 criteria for me to make a determination on whether I'm going to sue. The first of which is the action unlawful? Policy aside, to be sure, I disagree with his policies, but it's not about his policies. It's about whether they are lawful, and if they are unlawful, are they negatively affecting Nevadans? And if so, I will see him in court and I will beat him in court. Thank you for that question. One more, April, do you know?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of eyes on what's happening in Minneapolis and Minnesota right now. Could you talk a little bit more about your efforts on immigration and whether or not what you have to say to Nevadans who are worried that some of the ICE enforcement and things might ramp up eventually here in Nevada?
Yeah, well, some of the lawsuits he filed have been related to immigration in the sense that he's tried to, for example, in the Victims of the Violence Against Women's Act, to condition being able to receive funds on immigration status. Unlawful in and of itself. I stood up. I'm the leader in this state that said that is not appropriate and is unlawful. Not the governor and not others. What's important for the residents of our state to know is that as your Attorney General, I will continue to stand up without fear or favor, without regard to political repercussions or punditry, for the rule of law and for the rights that every resident of our state deserves. So thank you so much. Take care, everybody.